There is a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home in Florida, 2,000 square feet, corner lot. Listed at $69,900. Not a typo, not a fixer-upper war zone. A livable house in a quiet town where land is still abundant and nobody outside the state's rural real estate circles is paying attention. Here is the disconnect most people never see. While Miami, Tampa, and Orlando regularly push median home prices past $500,000, there is a separate Florida running parallel to all of that. A rural interior, a Big Bend coastline, a panhandle corridor, where prices never got the memo. Towns where you can buy a farmhouse on acreage for less than what people in the suburbs are putting down as a deposit. This video covers 10 of those towns, real listings, real prices, and the honest breakdown of what you are actually getting, the land, the community, the healthcare access, the tax rules that make the math even better than it looks. We are moving from the absolute cheapest markets at the top of the list toward the ones with the best overall lifestyle package. Some of these will feel impossible, a few will feel like the most obvious retirement decision you have never heard of. Here are 10 affordable Florida rural farmhouses with land so dirt cheap it makes no sense. Live Oak. Live Oak is the county seat of Suwannee County in North Florida, wrapped on 3 sides by the Suwannee River. That river and its network of natural springs, clear, cold water you can kayak, dive, and float through year-round, define what daily life here actually looks and feels like. The real estate market reflects how under the radar this area still is. Budget farmhouses on 5 acres are regularly listed in the $130,000 to $150,000 range. A 2-bedroom home with a double carport on a private parcel, a 3-bedroom on River Road with 5 acres of land. And if you want to go bigger, a 36-acre agricultural and equestrian farm with a 4-bedroom home and no HOA, no deed restrictions, listed under $800,000. That no deed restrictions detail matters more than most buyers initially realize. In Suwannee County, a large portion of rural subdivisions carry 0 HOA and 0 deed restrictions. You can park your RV, keep chickens, run a small operation. Nobody is going to tell you otherwise. The water infrastructure here is straightforward. Wells tap the upper Floridan aquifer at depths between 100 and 300 feet, and complete installation runs around $4,500 to $9,500. Septic systems on high and dry sandy ridges use standard concrete tanks. No expensive engineering workarounds required on elevated parcels. One geological note to carry into any due diligence process. This area sits entirely atop porous limestone karst formations, and localized ground sinkage is a documented regional risk. A professional geological inspection before purchasing acreage is a reasonable precaution, not an overreaction. For retirees, local medical care is anchored by Shands Live Oak, and Lake City and Gainesville are accessible for anything specialized. It is not the strongest healthcare story on this list, but it is far from the weakest. And for a town where the outdoor lifestyle, springs, rivers, kayaking routes is genuinely exceptional, the overall package remains hard to dismiss at this price. Chiefland. Chiefland sits in Levy County in north central Florida, south of Gainesville, in the transitional zone between the Big Bend coast and the horse country of central Florida. The World Equestrian Center in Ocala is 15 miles away. Hitz Ocala is 18. That proximity shapes the land use culture here in a way no other town on this list can match. At a median home price of $168,470, Chiefland's market is the highest priced on this list. The trade-off is real, since so is what you get for it. Budget buyers can still find mobile homes on 5 acres in nearby Bronson for around $113,900. But the market also carries established mini farms, horse properties with paddocks and run-in shelters, and wooded homesteads on 20+ acres. Inventory that reflects an area the horse community has already discovered. Now here's where Chiefland stands alone on this list. Healthcare. Most rural Florida towns require 45 to 60-minute drives for anything beyond a clinic visit. Chiefland does not. The Chiefland Medical Center covers primary care and urgent care. The Chiefland Health Center adds walk-in diagnostics, advanced imaging, x-rays, ultrasounds, and an on-site pharmacy. You are not driving to Gainesville for a routine scan. That distinction, for retirees especially, is not a minor convenience. The tax structure here also rewards horse operations. Under Florida's agricultural classification law, the Greenbelt Law, a commercial horse breeding or boarding operation on a minimum of 5 fenced acres can qualify for a dramatically reduced land assessment, cutting property taxes by up to 99%. With the equestrian infrastructure nearby, qualifying is not difficult. Bristol. Bristol is the county seat of Liberty County, Florida's least populated county. The Apalachicola National Forest dominates the surrounding geography. The permanent population is small, the roads are quiet, and the lifestyle is defined almost entirely by hunting, river fishing, and hiking through one of the largest national forests in the eastern United States. The prices reflect all of that. A 2-bedroom home with a back deck in Bristol for $70,000. A 3-bedroom manufactured farmhouse with a metal roof for $92,500. A 5-bedroom home in town at $139,900. And if land is the goal, 10-acre tracts with spring-fed ponds are regularly available for around $85,000. That is 10 acres with a natural water feature for less than the down payment on a median home in most metro areas. Here is the twist nobody expects from this corner of Florida. Bristol sits directly across the Apalachicola River from Blountstown, home to the Calhoun Liberty Hospital, a critical access hospital that has received national recognition as a top 100 facility in its category. For a town with essentially no population, that is a remarkable healthcare outcome. One practical note for buyers looking at older structures here. Homes over 30 years old must pass a certified 4-point inspection covering the roof, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC to qualify for homeowners insurance. The listings featuring metal roofs are a specific advantage. Metal roofs remain insurable in Florida for 30 to 40 plus years, far beyond the 15-year age limit that applies to standard asphalt shingles. On the tax side, Liberty County's position inside the Apalachicola National Forest corridor means the active residential tax base is small, which keeps the county millage rate low. Timberland parcels and private hunting tracts carry minimal annual carrying costs as a result. For buyers acquiring 10 to 20 acre wooded parcels here, the combination of low purchase price and low annual tax obligation makes the long-term hold exceptionally cheap. Moore Haven. Moore Haven is the county seat of Glades County, sitting on the western shore of Lake Okeechobee in the Florida heartland. Sugarcane and cattle ranching define the local economy, and the median home price in this market, $112,840, makes it the most affordable rural land within driving distance of Fort Myers, West Palm Beach, and Miami. That proximity is the story here. For retirees who want acreage prices without completely severing their connection to south of Florida, whether for family, for major medical, or for the occasional city amenity, Moore Haven fills a gap no other town on this list covers. You are roughly 50 minutes from Fort Myers. The rural market pricing does not reflect that proximity. Freshwater fishing and airboating on Lake Okeechobee are the lifestyle anchors. The community is small and unhurried. For buyers who want the slow-paced rural experience but still need a meaningful city within reach, a major hospital, an airport, family, Moore Haven's positioning is genuinely unique on this list. Every other town here trades that urban proximity for price. Moore Haven quietly keeps both. One area where buyers need honest preparation. The soil and water conditions near Lake Okeechobee are not forgiving for standard septic systems. The water table is high, the soils are heavy and organic, and environmental regulations prevent standard drain fields from being used. Advanced treatment units or elevated sand mounds are often required, pushing septic installation costs to $10,000 on the low end and $35,000 on the high end. Wells, on the other hand, are cheap here. The aquifer is shallow, and complete well installation typically runs $3,000 to $6,500. Because the entire county qualifies as rural under federal standards, properties here are also compatible with USDA zero-down financing, a meaningful tool for buyers with income but limited liquid savings. Budget accordingly. The purchase price is just the opening number. Marianna. Marianna is the county seat of Jackson County, sitting in the northern panhandle near the Alabama border. Natural limestone cave systems, spring-fed rivers, and rolling agricultural fields define the landscape around the city. Median home price in this market is $111,950. Land is among the cheapest in the Panhandle, with multi-acre parcels averaging $13,000 to $16,000 per acre. Standard listings run from $84,000 for a 3-bedroom in Marianna to $129,900 for a home on seizing 2 acres in nearby Greenwood. And then there is the outlier that earns this county a specific mention. In Greenwood, an 8-bedroom, 4-bathroom, 18,013 square foot multifamily structure on over an acre is listed at $130,000. 18,000 square feet, that number requires reading twice. The structure has a foundation. It is a multi-unit building. The price per square foot is something that does not exist in any other market in the country at this price point. What that specific property is used for, and what it costs to bring up to code, are questions a buyer needs to answer before writing a check. But as a signal of how far the county's pricing sits from any national baseline, it serves the point. One infrastructure note that applies across this area: clay lens deposits in the soil can impede drainage on certain parcels, which occasionally forces elevated sand mound septic configurations rather than standard gravity systems. A comprehensive soil percolation test before purchasing acreage, typically $700 to $2,000, is the step that tells you which situation you are buying into. On parcels with favorable drainage, standard systems keep installation costs in the lower range. On problem parcels without that testing, surprises can reach $35,000. Jackson Hospital in Marianna anchors the area's healthcare access, which is notably strong for a rural panhandle market. And Marianna's proximity to Dothan, Alabama, extends the regional retail and employment base in a way most rural Florida towns do not benefit from. Jennings. This is the town from the hook, and the house is real. Jennings is a small community in Hamilton County, north central Florida, bordered by Georgia to the north and the Withlacoochee and Suwannee rivers to the east and south. Quiet, rural, and largely overlooked, which is exactly why the prices look the way they do. Median home price, $108,510. Monthly mortgage estimate on that median, around $620. And then there is the house on Hamilton Avenue, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2,046 square feet. Corner lot in Jennings, listed at $69,900. That math, roughly $34 per square foot, does not exist in any metropolitan real estate market in America. The rest of the county's inventory keeps going. A 3-bedroom with a newer metal roof on 2 acres for $129,900. A manufactured home on 2 private acres for $105,900. And for buyers looking to build, vacant 2.5-acre residential parcels in quiet subdivisions for $23,500. The infrastructure here requires one specific pre-purchase step that smart buyers do not skip. Hamilton County's geology includes limestone karst formations close to the surface. Before installing a septic system, a licensed professional must conduct a soil profile test, typically $700 to $2,000, to confirm adequate filtration and prevent groundwater issues. It is not a deal breaker, it is a line item on the due diligence checklist. For buyers with stable income but limited savings for a down payment, Jennings and the surrounding area are worth a conversation with a USDA-approved lender. The entire county qualifies for USDA Rural Development Loans, which offer 100% financing with no down payment required. On a $108,000 purchase, eliminating the down payment requirement removes the single largest financial barrier most first-time rural buyers face. Basic healthcare services are available through local clinics in Jasper, the county seat a few miles away. Comprehensive inpatient care is in Valdosta, Georgia or Lake City, Florida, both accessible within a reasonable drive. Madison. Madison is the county seat of Madison County, sitting along the Georgia border in north central Florida. It is a genuine agricultural town surrounded by cattle ranches, organic crop farms, managed timberland, and some of the most productive acreage in North Florida. Median home price here is $104,090, but the listings span a wide range that tells the fuller story of what this market carries. At the accessible end, a 2-bedroom mobile home on 6 3/4 acres of high and dry land is listed at $125,000. At the higher end, a 40-acre working mini farm with a 3-bedroom home, cross-fencing, cypress ponds, and a 30 by 60 barn comes in at $350,000. That is a functional agricultural operation, not a hobby plot. The soil here is a balanced mix of sand, clay, and limestone that supports diverse farming. Standard gravity flow septic systems work without expensive workarounds. Homeowners insurance is low due to the secure inland location, with wind-mitigated homes typically running $1,800 to $2,400 per year. Buyers who put 5 or more acres into commercial hay production cut at least twice a year. Equipment filed on a tangible personal property return can qualify for an agricultural tax classification that dramatically reduces the land portion of their annual tax bill, a strategy well suited to the flat, open pasture land common across this area. Madison is also 55 miles from Tallahassee and 30 miles from Valdosta, Georgia, a dual-access position that gives residents reach to major commercial amenities without living inside either city. The healthcare anchor is directly in town. Madison County Memorial Hospital is a 25-bed critical access hospital providing emergency medicine, inpatient services, general surgery, and wound care. For a town at this price point, that is an exceptional in-town healthcare outcome. And the historic downtown, tree-lined streets, walkable blocks, a genuine community center, adds a livability dimension that most towns at this price level do not offer. Bonifay. Bonifay is the county seat of Holmes County, tucked in inland Panhandle, Florida against the Alabama border. There are no tourist economies here, no coastal price premiums, no metropolitan spillover. Just rolling clay hills, pine flatwoods, and land priced at the absolute floor of what Florida charges. Median home price, $99,660. Raw land, 1 to 2 acre parcels averaging $15,000 per acre. Larger 2 to 5 acre tracts averaging $11,250 per acre. Those are the lowest raw land numbers in the entire state of Florida. The anchor listing in Bonifay is a 1964 brick and vinyl sided home with a metal roof on 3 1/4 acres, half cleared, half timber, listed under $150,000. The metal roof is not aesthetic preference here. In Florida's insurance market, a metal roof on an older structure is the difference between affordable annual premiums and an insurer refusing to write the policy at all. The local geography solves one of rural Florida's most common infrastructure headaches. The rolling clay hills and elevated terrain mean standard gravity-fed septic systems work without sand mounds or advanced treatment units. Installation costs stay in the $2,000 to $7,000 range. That is a meaningful difference from the coastal towns lower on this list. The trade-off is well depth. The geological transition to the Panhandle aquifer system requires wells drilled to 200 to 500 feet, putting complete installation costs at $7,000 to $14,000. Plan for it. One lifestyle note worth including: Bonifay is a 1-hour drive from the Emerald Coast beaches. Gulf access without Gulf Coast pricing. The math on that trade is obvious once you see it. One financial tool that works particularly well in this area is Florida's agricultural tax classification, the Greenbelt Law, which allows land used for qualifying agricultural purposes to be assessed at productivity value rather than market value. In Holmes County, the beekeeping pathway is popular. A minimum of 24 active hives on parcels up to 5 acres qualifies. A landowner who does not want to manage bees personally can lease the land to a commercial beekeeper who places and maintains the hives. The landowner gets the agricultural classification and the tax reduction, which can reach up to 99% on the land portion of the bill, without doing any of the work themselves. Perry. Perry is the county seat of Taylor County, sitting directly on the Big Bend Gulf Coast. Known as the tree capital of the South, a title rooted in the commercial timber economy that has defined this area for generations. Perry offers saltwater fishing on the Gulf, river systems including the Econfina and Oscilla, and an outdoor-focused community that knows exactly what it is. Median home price, $98,480. The standout listing that defines this county's unique value is a dual-unit, block-constructed home on 2 gated acres in Perry. 2 fully independent living quarters, combined space over 2,700 square feet, active chicken coops, a barn, mature fruit trees, listed under $250,000. That is a self-sufficient homestead with a built-in rental unit or multi-generational living setup, at a price that would not buy a studio apartment in most Florida coastal cities. Block construction is worth pausing on. Concrete masonry homes are significantly cheaper to insure than wood frame structures. They offer superior wind resistance, lower termite vulnerability, and a more favorable profile under Florida's insurance underwriting rules. When insurance costs are one of the biggest variables in rural Florida carrying costs, construction type matters. One honest note on the water supply. Groundwater in this area frequently contains high concentrations of hydrogen sulfide. The characteristic odor is strong. Resolving it requires a separate aeration and filtration system, typically adding $2,000 to $5,000 to the infrastructure budget. It is a solvable problem. It just needs to be on the buyer's radar before closing. Primary medical care is available through Doctors Memorial Hospital in Perry. Specialized services are a 55-mile drive west to Tallahassee. Cross City. Cross City is the main community of Dixie County, and it is the end of the line in the best possible way. No incorporated cities in the entire county, no tourist economy, no municipal infrastructure driving prices upward. Just the Gulf Coast, the Lower Suwannee National Wildlife Refuge, and a small permanent population spread across Cross City and the marine community of Horseshoe Beach. Median home price, $95,240. Monthly mortgage estimate at that median, $540. Effective property tax rate, 0.49 to 0.53%, the lowest in Florida. On a homesteaded property with a taxable value of $175,000, the annual tax bill runs under $1,000. That number is not a rounding error. Active listings show what that floor actually looks like in practice. A 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home on an acre in Cross City for $75,000. A 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom manufactured farmhouse on NE 7th and 23rd Street in Old Town for $164,000. A 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom home on nearly half an acre on NE 441st Avenue for $134,900. And for buyers focused on land, 10-acre tracts to town regularly come available for under $100,000. Now here is where the honest accounting comes in, because Cross City's low entry cost carries specific trade-offs that matter. The flat, low-lying coastal terrain means a significant portion of properties sit in high-risk flood zones. Mortgage holders in those zones must carry separate flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program. That is a real cost layered on top of the standard homeowner's premium. Septic systems in low-lying areas face strict state environmental regulations. On elevated sandy ridges, a standard gravity system costs $2,000 to $7,000. Near water bodies or in flood-prone zones, elevated sand mounds or advanced nitrogen-reducing units are required, and those can reach $10,000 to $35,000. Soil conditions vary significantly by parcel. A professional site evaluation before purchase is not optional. Private wells here tap the upper Floridan aquifer, typically running 100 to 300 feet deep. Complete installation averages $4,500 to $9,500. Healthcare access in Cross City is limited. Basic medical care is available through regional health clinics in town. For anything beyond that, inpatient services, specialist consultations, advanced procedures, residents drive approximately 45 to 60 minutes north to Gainesville, which carries the major medical infrastructure for North Central Florida. The lifestyle here is defined by the outdoors. Fishing, boating, kayaking, and wildlife watching in one of the most pristine coastal ecosystems in the state. It is not for everyone. For the right buyer, there is no cheaper entry point into residential land ownership anywhere in Florida. The towns on this list are not secrets the internet is protecting, they are just rural. And rural in Florida has historically meant off the radar for buyers whose mental model of the state begins and ends at the coast. The pricing gap between Florida's urban markets and these 10 towns is not arbitrary. It reflects infrastructure, geography, and population density, real variables. What it does not reflect, at least not accurately, is quality of life for the buyer who actually wants what rural Florida offers. Land, quiet, low carrying costs, and outdoor access that coastal towns charge a premium to live near. Some towns on this list trade healthcare proximity for price. Some trade urban amenities for acreage. A few, like Madison and Chiefland, manage to deliver both at a price point that should not be possible given where they sit. The range on this list is wide enough that almost any version of a rural retirement finds at least one county that fits. The financing tools are already in place. Over 90% of Florida's land area qualifies for USDA zero-down rural mortgages, including every town on this list. Agricultural tax classifications are actively used. The listings are live. The only thing that changes these prices is attention, and word is moving.